Start the webinar. Right. Let's get this thing out everywhere. What's up, my friend? How are you doing, Stephen? Fine. Ooh, there's got Leah in here too. Let's promote the panelist.
Hello.
Get you guys to rejoin as a panelist.
All right. Turn my camera on here. There we
There
go.
you are. What's up, Stephen?
Yeah, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you doing?
All right, all right. It's a little more running around today, so I'm not set up in my regular studio, but it's okay.
Oh, good. Me neither, actually.
Laptop based.
I'm in North Carolina with at my parents' house running from this storm in Hurricane Milton,
Oh,
based down in Florida. My light doesn't want to work here. Look at this.
oh,
So,
you're down those areas. You're having a lot of fun then, huh?
man, it's crazy times for sure. So trying to make my mom's office work here is always fun for me too. So I'm trying to get my light set up here. Let's see if we can get this thing. There we
Yeah, I literally just walked in the office like 2 minutes ago. I'm like, okay, no time to because I have a whole four camera studio. I'm like, no time for that. Just sit down,
go.
turn the laptop on, and go for it.
Well, there you go. Let me keep sharing this link around and get some more folks to join in here. We'll give a few minutes.
So which topics? Because I do hard money lending, I do education, I do training, I do
Yeah.
I'm a broker. I mean, because I can be on a bunch of. I do a lot of. I trying to do a lot of podcasts. I'm trying to do more. So
Yeah.
you tell me what to cover, and I'll kind of go there.
Well, so I kind of will first, once we get everybody in here, I'll open up and let you just share a little bit about your general background first off, and then we'll kind of just dive into organic questions either that come from them or myself. I think we probably end up touching on a lot of the different things that you mentioned there, So if you have all of that versatile experience, sounds like a lot of great value that can be added, and so we can definitely drum up lots of questions. What do you most focus on right now? How are you helping people the most, or what are you looking for in your business currently that we can focus in
I
on?
mean, I'm looking to acquire real estate. I sold off a lot during COVID because people offered me stupid money.
Yeah.
But also, a lot of what I'm doing is well, always lending of some kind, connecting people with lending, just like a connection situation.
Mhm.
But also really primarily the education and the growing of the brokerage and wholesale businesses, especially in PA. The Pennsylvania is now going to start in February licensing wholesalers, and my brokerage firm wants all of them. If you're a wholesaler in Pennsylvania, I want you on my firm. It's as
Wait,
simple
wait,
as
wait.
that.
That's cool. Let's. I don't think I've heard that. So wholesalers, I'm gonna jot this down so make sure I don't forget it. Wholesalers are getting licensed in PA.
Yeah, so PASB, I think it's 1173, passed in May from the Senate, June from the House, signed by the governor in July, and the bill says it's a horribly written bill. It says 180 days from passing it becomes law. So we don't know if that's January or February, but
Mm,
sometime soon. And anything of a residential nature, some land up to 5 units, you got to be a licensed agent. There's a lot of stupid stuff in the law. Um,
wow.
about 30 days right of the seller to change their mind. And bottom line is I'm right now, and I'm a little bit late in doing this. I had a difficult summer, so I didn't get out there as early as I wanted to. I'm right now going around and doing as many podcasts as I can, as many whatever, saying if you're a wholesaler in PA, get your damn license, join my firm. If you don't want to get your license, you're stupid. Send me your leads. I'll give you 20% of the profit. Those are your choices. If you're doing residential wholesale, I mean, people think they can get around it, but the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors has said we are going to be watching like a hawk. Anything that smells like wholesale, we're going to report it to the state. Done.
Pennsylvania's not the only state that's giving some of these hurdles. So are they being a little bit more strict than other states? I've not heard that from anybody
They've
else.
kind of they've cloned other states' laws, and see, I also started a group called the Independent Investor Association, which I've never really focused on launching, but I'd love to talk with influencers like you about launching it. I wanted to become, or I want it to become, the NAR for wholesalers, the ethics organization. If we had this running, they probably wouldn't have done the other. Because frankly, wholesalers are fucking up the whole world. Bad wholesalers are causing people heartache, they're
Yes.
causing pain, they're causing money. There's the problem. So if we had an organization that said, hey, join this, get certified, and then the states could back off. But Pennsylvania did not take the Philadelphia role. The Philadelphia law is a crap load better. They went with this. I don't want to use bad words, but I don't know where they found this. They pulled it from other states, but it's the worst amalgamation I could imagine of what other states have done. And it doesn't do the one thing they needed to do. It doesn't tell the seller. You're not required to tell the seller, I'm paying you less than you could sell your house for to someone else. That's the number one thing as a wholesaler you should tell every seller. You're t- I'm fast and easy, but I'm also a discount.
Yeah.
That's it. And they did a bunch of other crap. And so there, I haven't compared other states' laws because I don't deal a lot in other states. I don't do a lot of virtual wholesaling, but Pennsylvania just jammed it. And everyone says, oh, we can double close. Oh, we
Yeah.
can this, we can that. PAR hotline, the legal hotline that realtors and brokers can call, said if it looks like you're selling equity for money on something you don't currently hold title to, we're going to call that wholesale. You call it novation, you call it power of attorney, you call it whatever fancy word you want. We're going to report it to the state for wholesale. And if you haven't followed the rest of the law, your butt's ours. And
Interesting.
every so they're serious. And I understand PAR has its other reasons of getting commissions from its brokers, but I understand why, because people have gotten hurt. I'll cover this later, but basically there's a lot there. So I teach wholesaling, I teach real estate investing. My education stuff is one thing I want to grow, but really, I want to grow my brokerage. I'll take agents statewide. We have MLS coverage right down through Virginia. Which is separate from the wholesaling side, but you want access down through Virginia. Like we have great geographical coverage. I've been investing in real estate full time since '09, part time since '97. You know, blah blah blah. See, a lot of brokerages said EXP, Century 21, all the big boys, we will not allow wholesaling within our company.
Mm.
Won't do it. So it's a strange time.
It is strange, it's you're right in saying that there's a handful of people that do it wrong and make headache for others that were not, ever intentionally trying to do anything wrong. Wholesaling in and of itself is something that happens in most industries, right? It's just the
Yeah,
way we approach it and are we doing right by people in the long run? So that's interesting. I have not heard all of that. I heard, rumblings about some of the hurdles, but not so much information as you just shared there. So thank you for sharing that for sure. That's interesting.
yeah, and the funny thing is that you know the you know most wholesalers, there are some that intend to do wrong. I actually helped send one to
Yeah.
state prison.
Oh wow. There's a
But
story.
most wholesalers don't want to do wrong. They went to YouTube University,
Yeah.
heard this Wild West crap of no money, no time, no risk, no whatever, and just went out and did it.
Yeah.
And they didn't know how to do
Exactly.
it right. And a lot of lawyers, I had lawyers tell me that Pennsylvania state law does not require disclosures for wholesale transactions. I said, well, that's funny. Pennsylvania disclosure law says every sale of residential property in Pennsylvania must. It doesn't seem like there's any variables in that.
Hmm.
It seems like every residential property in Pennsylvania must. It seems real simple. And even attorneys are telling me, well, only realtors do it. I said, that's not only realtors do it, and only realtors are required to are two different statements.
Yeah. That is true. Wow. One of our team members, Anna Mulder, is a licensed agent in Pennsylvania. So hopefully she'll be able to jump on here. I'm not sure if she will, but if not, I'll connect the two of y'all afterwards because it sounds like there's some conversations. It's interesting that you talk about that because one of the things that I see for the future on our side from Dealmakers Academy is really growing towards what I've been telling people is a lot like a brokerage for wholesalers. Um, Most wholesalers are not any more advanced than agents, specifically when they first begin. Like they're all base knowledge. So a lot of what those people need is proper resources, training, development, leadership, guidance, and then of course everybody looking for leads. Everybody's looking for opportunity. That's the thing that I do best is drive lead flow. So it leans in that direction. And a lot of what we're developing right now or launching right now with Dealmakers Academy is playing that role, right? So we have I think 15 students that are fully onboarded and another 5 to 10 that are coming over the next couple days/week, basically in that same kind of dynamic, right? We give them the data and the resources. They're going to be doing some direct to agent outreaches and stuff of that nature, currently generating deals. We'll be kind of advancing through the different steps of investing and teaching them along the way. So a lot of cool stuff similar to a brokerage. Now, you said you're doing coaching right now as well. That's one of your primary focuses
Yeah,
is
and actually, I've been meaning to catch up with you about possibly partnering because I'm reaching out to every other guru. I do education, but I'm not trying to make that a competition. I want to find ways to facilitate with. I have my IIA, the Independent Investor Association, which was like the certification group, and the reason I kept it separate was like I want other educators to use the IIA certification program as the standard. So it's not like, oh, this is Steve's education masquerading as something else. No, you want to join IAA, you pay us like 25 bucks, you take a test, and as long as you know what you're doing, I don't care how you learned it, you know what you're doing. You watch our videos, whatever, but like I'm not trying to make money off that. I also do education, and also I have REI homepage, which is like the in my mind the soon to be the homepage for everything real estate, including I want to put Dealmakers Academy. I do a lot of cross affiliation. You're my affiliate, I'm your affiliate. Whoever wins, great, we both
yeah,
win. And the brokerage for wholesalers is exactly what REI homepage was, and also my other brand Gorilla, which is my licensed brokerage. Exactly what we're designed to be. We're designed to be the you come to us, you can either just follow our standards if you're IIA, or if you want to be fully invested, then you're fine. You're one of our team members, and we're JVing our way through life, which is fine. And we have the virtual assistants to handle the making sure the paperwork is filled out and the back office, what I call compliance checks.
yeah,
We have, if we need to use our escrow account, we can. We do this, we do that. We have and then I'm also launching something called Asset Mastermind, which right now I'm only charging 300 a year for. I'm going to up that eventually. And that's meeting that's a 24/7, not really an academy. I'm 3 hours a week doing lessons, whatever. So I'm kind of focused, and that's why I want to collaborate. I don't want to compete. I want to collaborate and say, you know, what can I do that'll help other people doing what you're doing? How can I fill in things you're not covering and vice versa?
love it.
Because none of us can answer every question for every student. And also when it comes to geography, certain markets, like I pretty much know Pennsylvania and, Mid-Atlantic and a little bit of New England, mostly Pennsylvania. Outside of that, I tell people I can teach you how to wholesale, but I can't teach you what part of Kalamazoo, Washington is the right part.
Yeah.
I can't, there's a lot of local knowledge, there's a lot of comfort level, there's a lot of making sure you have and to me, it's not virtual wholesaling. Is it, gee, I found something in Michigan. Now let me go figure Michigan out. I'd rather work in a team and say, okay, you know what? Garrett knows that more national stuff better. Go for it. You get a
That's
self
spot
storage
on.
room. Yeah.
Spot on. That's exactly what I do too, right? I love what you're talking here with the collaborative nature, right? Because that's not only is it our whole style currently, it's been my whole career, the way that I've done things. There's two ways that I view that you can learn or accomplish things. You either take the time and the effort and the energy to go learn it, and it generally takes a long time, right? In the scope of business, maybe not a long time, but we're talking 18 months, 24 months of study, action, error, repeat over and over again to learn and master something. To be really a master of something, you're probably talking about 5, 10 plus years of full on execution to be a master. So, am I willing to put in 5 years, let's say minimum effort, to be a master at any number of things? Let's say a Morby method transaction. No, because right now I can put my hands on 10 different people that are absolute experts at that one specific exit strategy. So, do I understand it conceptually? Yes. Would I rather learn from an expert? Absolutely. So, I'm going to pull in somebody who can answer this question to the highest ability. And if not, will help me find that answer. And in turn, we're able to offer a better solution. And I view that collaborative nature as the best way to do business. Because yes, I might have to give up a piece of this deal to other people, but in the long run, would the deal even happen the right way if I didn't? So this is where some wholesalers that you kind of touched on earlier corner themselves. They're like, "Oh, I this could possibly be a deal. This might be innovation. I'm going to lock it up." but they really have no idea how to implement or execute the actual
Hmm.
exit strategy. So like they're like, oh yeah, yeah, I locked it up. And then they realize through someone else like us telling them, well, this deal is trash. Like you got this locked up way too high. You overlooked this, you missed that. And they're just kind of trying to do it on their own at first instead of doing it with someone else. So one of the ways that I'm able to move very fast in life and in business is through that collaborative nature. So I go to somebody and say, hey, I've got all this value that I want to lead with. Hey, we generated these leads. We have this seller that we're working with. I need this kind of partnership. Are you interested in this? Somebody says yes. Now, boom, that deal keeps moving forward. I don't have to touch it anymore. Yes, I'm going to watch and learn and I'm going to oversee it, but I don't have to carry the weight of that deal any longer because I pulled in the right partner. And that's really, I think, what, from the academy perspective, what I am striving to get people to understand the most. You can either go try to be Pace Morby and be the expert at the thing that you're doing, or you can be me, G Money, who knows the guy who is the expert at the thing, right? So Pace is very similar to that. Pace is a super affiliate marketer. He makes money in 100 different ways. And obviously, you guys hear me talk a lot about Pace because I am in sub two. He is a mentor of mine. I do look to him as a role model for the community development as well. So just being able to make a little piece of an affiliate connection by handing it off to the right person to me is always going to be better than watching a deal die in some way because I wasn't prepared. So I love what you're talking about. That's definitely the same energy that we move with on this side.
Exactly. And also what I do is I started my brokerage firm. I don't know at what point we need to, you want to stop and bring people in or whatever. My whole model at Gorilla is 90% to the agent, 10% to me. I have wholesalers that I work with around, and I'm like, if they have a deal, if they're working with somebody like you, yada yada, and you're like, hey, I just need someone to guide them in Pennsylvania. I just need someone to watch their compliance. Fine, 5%, 10%, $1,000, whatever. I'll take something small because I'm only playing the back pedal. I'm only playing the backstop. I'm not looking to, I mean, sure, do I want more? It's always great. But if they're already working with an expert like you, I don't need to play the front door. I should say, okay, you know what? Here are the things you got to watch out for, or hey, da da da, or hey, you know what? I have lenders that'll help pick that up, or whatever. So I don't, I don't mind playing it a bunch of different ways, like with my brokers that I'm reaching out to. Now, listen, if you want to keep the agent, but you don't want to wholesale, throw me your off-market leads. I'll give you 40%. Normal agent is 20% referral. I'll give you 40%. I'll give you a huge piece of it, and you'll never hear from it again. Because I'm looking at volume. I'm looking at in 5 years, 4 years, I want to be everything I want to be with a team, a non-competing, whether wholesale or whatever broker, with a team. I'm sitting on a beach somewhere watching my laptop, and people are out there saying, "Hey, Steve, I need help with this. Hey, I need help with that." Okay, great, $200, $200, $200, whatever. Done. I can just process it through quickly. So like I'm down for whatever.
Interesting.
Also because I've been a landlord since 1997, I've been in commercial real estate as well and self-storage and yada yada.
So
There's
yeah,
pretty
let's
much
talk
every
about that real
sector.
quick. You said you've been a landlord, commercial real estate, self storage. Tell us a little bit about some of the actual real estate background that you have been a part of.
So I bought my brother and I bought our first building in 1997. It was a warehouse in out suburb of Boston he needed for his business. So it was kind of a, sign here, family kind of thing,
Yeah.
whatever. But, okay, it was we had a triple net lease, yada yada. So there was that. Then around um '09 or when the '08 we refinanced that building. I lived at that time out in northeastern Pennsylvania, in Wilkesburg, and I took that 100 grand refinance cash and I turned that into 50 units.
Cool.
And pretty much made every damn mistake you could because I'd read all of one book when I started buying rentals. We bumbled through that, whatever. And during COVID, I think I'd invested maybe a total of $250,000 in everything I owned at that point. And during COVID, we sold off 80% of it because people offered us like $500,000 or a little more than that. So in some ways, I lost the cash flow, but I gained a good advantage at a time when, frankly, we didn't know what was going on. Pennsylvania real estate was shut down. Um, so we did that, and then I started wholesaling around '09, 010. Around 12, I started educating more or less as people came to me to started teaching them, doing deal analysis, multifamily, commercial, self storage, whatever. I took Scott Myers' self storage program, so I'm really deep in self storage. Um, I've done a couple mobile home parks. I haven't owned them, but I've traded them. I've been an agent since 15. I've been a broker since 22 with my own firm. Before that, I was a TV production, so whatever. But basically, everything real estate, and that's why I like teaching. I like guiding. I love helping somebody else thrive in the business,
Hmm.
somebody else lead the deal. And I'll sit back and take, 10, 15, 20%, whatever it is, whatever makes sense for how much they're ready to do. My goal is to have I mean, I've used the same word, wholesale brokerage. They take 90%, I take 10%. My job is to keep it within, once they get experience, my job is to keep it within the boundaries.
Exactly.
You know, that's it. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm 50-50 in the beginning. I work it up to 90-10. Once you're ready, some cases I'm 30-70, but whatever. I work it up to 90-10. Because once you're ready, once you're rolling, I'm just keeping the engine churning.
Exactly.
I'm double checking your comps. I'm double checking your numbers. I'm watching I mean, you've seen them too. These people, it only needs about $15,000 worth of work. Well, what's it need? Needs a roof. Just a roof, furnace, and kitchen. That's about 15 grand, 5 grand for a furnace. No,
Uh,
go bring me an actual rehab estimate.
Yeah, dude, there's definitely we'll have to talk a little bit one-on-one soon because I need more leaders, more people to help lead the academy overall. The real estate experience is incredibly valuable. My real estate experience is definitely short in comparison to yours there. I started jumping into real estate. I took my first course and I was 19 years old. So that's 12, 13 years ago, something like 12 years ago.
Oh God, you're so young. I'm 53. So,
Yeah, I just turned 31 a couple days ago. So I took the course then. I never implemented anything. Actually, it was a Cody Sperber clever investor thing way back in the day. I didn't fully understand other people's money and I didn't have money in life. And so I didn't take action then. I've grown several businesses since then and done well. And then I got to a point where I was hating what else I was doing in solar, and we pivoted this way. And all of the lead gen systems and the skills and resources that we've built over the years were pretty plug and play in this direction. So we've picked up some momentum fast. And as we've developed the community, it's brought in a lot of other really powerful people, people with experience like yourself that really help teach everybody so much, including myself. I love to learn. I'm a voracious reader. I love to learn from people and take in new information. So I think there's a lot of value that not only myself, but the community can find from somebody like yourself there. So actually I see my man Bain just jumped in. Bain, aren't you in Pennsylvania?
I grew up in Pittsburgh. I have some properties out there, but I'm in Florida right now.
Oh, oh, what part of Florida are you in?
Orlando.
Oh yeah, you all hunkered down?
Yeah, nothing yet, so we're just kind of waiting.
It's a big waiting game, but they sure make it sound scary on the news. I didn't realize you were that close to me. I'm normally in just outside Bradenton, Florida, Palmetto, but we dipped out of there quick on Monday because it was looking chaotic. But I was thinking you were in I guess Pittsburgh because you mentioned that to me growing up there. But Steven was telling me, I don't know if you know this, but you have to be licensed or soon. Is it already active or soon you have to be licensed to be a
I thought
wholesaler?
it's
it,
it,
I
it's
thought it was next
it,
year.
it's early 2025. By my count, the law says 180 days from passage. The governor signed it on July 8th. It was passed June 20 something by the House. It was passed May 20 something by the Senate. So I'm just going to call it by when the governor signed it, which would be July 8th becomes February 8th. But bottom line is, first of the year, you got to be licensed. And the PAR, although they did not write this bill, their bill never got out of committee. It was completely a disaster. It was worse than this one. Um, they are all about it. They are going to be watching every wholesale Novation doesn't get you around it. Any sale of equity for money on a property you don't own, PAR said they're going to be going after and reporting. So they're making it pretty serious, and the law is stupid. It's a horrible piece of legislation. It has a 30-day right of rescission. We went to a team of attorneys to try to find out how we could change that. They said, "Yeah, how many millions of dollars do you have? Because you're taking this to the U.S. Supreme Court."
Uh,
They said, "You're absolutely right. You would win in the Supreme Court. You would have to win, but you'd have to get all the way to U.S. Supreme Court. It's not going to change before U.S. Supreme Court." So they were like,
Damn.
"Just walk away. Wholesalers are not organized enough to have that kind of
Got it.
money."
What's up? You got your hand raised?
Oh yeah, I was wondering, did you so like double closing? That's not gonna get around the whole thing, like
The,
transactional lending or anything.
I mean, the problem in the law is that they wrote it and said any sale of equity for money, and what they didn't say, but they mean is on a property you don't hold title to. Obviously, in every sale you're selling equity for money, but on a property you don't hold title to, there are wholesalers that have a position, have a belief that double closing will get you around it. But here's where I'm going to be very cautious with that. The only way that works is if you don't do a wholesale agreement, you don't do an and or assign, you don't do an ovation, you don't, and I still don't think that if I were the PAR, I still wouldn't let that go get away with it because um
Interesting.
the reason is because if you are marketing a property before you've taken title to it, and of course we all are, that's how wholesaling works, duh. Then someone sees that market. They call the state comes over and investigates, show me your contract. Oh, your contract is not an assignable contract because there's a special version of a contract you need now for wholesale. It's not a legal wholesale contract, but I see you're trying to resell the equity before you own it.
Hmm.
The question is, how far will the state take that definition? So for me, I say to everyone, listen, I have a brokerage that's an NAR member, and I own a brokerage that's not an NAR member. Get your damn license for $500. Hang your license with one of my brokerage firms, with or without NAR membership, and do it legally. Do it straight up. I'm not saying you won't get away with it the other way, but the point is, because if they catch you, the penalties then are pretty serious. First of all, you're dealing in real estate without a license. Second of all, they haven't named the other penalties, but let's be honest, Harrisburg's not going to go light on those. And also, what kills the law, there's two things that kills the law. The first thing is they didn't put in there, we must tell the seller they're selling the property at a discount, which to me is the most fundamental step in real estate wholesaling.
Yeah.
I'm coming to you for cash, but you know what, sir? Just so you know, you actually could make more elsewhere. You don't be that blunt, but you give them some idea. The second thing is it's a 30-day right of rescission, 30 days or until date of closing, whichever comes first, for the seller to change their mind. You could be walking into the closing room with your buyer next to you and your seller next to you, and the seller doesn't like the look of the buyer's shoes, and he says, "I'm not closing this. I'm not doing it." And there is no other. I've I've had 3 lawyers look into this. There's no other business that has a 30-day legally required right of return.
That's
But it's
I
here.
can't wrap my head around that. Like that's so wild. Like when I was in the
Yeah.
gym, we had a 3 day. Everything I've ever sold, I think, was a 3 day right of rescission. This is ridiculous. Like I can't wrap my head around this.
And in Pennsylvania, there is no right of rescission for real estate except for timeshares, which is 5 days, maybe seven. I forget if it's 5 or 7. I don't sell timeshare. But anyway, but it's stupid. We went to attorneys. They said, okay, well, what will it cost to put this? Forget the rest of the law. Change this one part. They said, yeah. How many millions of dollars do you think it'll take us to get to the U.S. Supreme Court? They said, you're not changing it at the state level. Because
Wow.
PAR is the second largest lobby in the state of Pennsylvania, and they're fully in favor of this law. PAR is going to be fighting tooth and nail to keep this stupid piece of crap in place. Even though they came out publicly and said they don't want brokers in charge of it, what they really want, they want wholesaling dead. The third thing is it also gives the seller the right to ask to pay for their own appraisal after sale, after contract, not after closing, after contract. Well, all they had to do was say, you know what, you got to be a registered wholesaler, you got to join something like my Independent Investment Association network group, ethics group, and you've got to make sure that you tell them in writing that they're getting less for their property. Philadelphia has a pretty reasonably good law, actually. But for this one, I'm just telling people, if you're wholesaling in Pennsylvania, I mean, a lot of people are saying to me, oh, I'll just double close. Oh, I'll just novation. I'll just whatever. Great. Good luck with that.
I'm curious
I'm
that so
gonna,
the novation is still an issue.
well, it doesn't name assignment or novation. It says sale of equity, something like sale of equity before taking title, sale of equity for money. And of course, they mean before taking title because you can sell the equity that you own all you freaking want. So the law says sale of equity for money. It doesn't say assignment. It doesn't say novation. It says wholesaling is the sale of equity for money. So take bananas, maybe, I don't know. But to me, that doesn't give novation. And according to PAR legal hotline, as soon as this thing was published, as soon as the Senate passed it, I called the legal hotline of Pennsylvania State Realtors, which is something that, as a member, I can have access to. And she's like, look, she's like, we know the law is stupid, but we're going to defend it tooth and nail. And she's like, sale of equity for money. Don't care if it's novation. Don't care if it's power of attorney. Don't care if it's assignment. You're selling equity for money on a property you do not hold title to.
Hmm.
She's like, in our definition, that's all there is to it.
So just like another amount of time before there's another creative solution that people pull together to work around this. People much smarter than myself, I'm sure, but like there's got to be a way that you could structure contracting in a way in which it could work. I mean, it
I
might not
mean,
be found yet, but there's got to be something.
in theory, yes. But the my position is because it's so early and because oops, I'm just trying to get blurred background going on. Because it's so early and because they've written it so broadly. In my definition, I mean, to me, there's only two ways. If you do double close, if you put it under a non-wholesale contract and you put it out there and you advertise it and you don't get caught and you get to closing and you double close it, which means I offer transactional money. I offer EMD now. I'm opening up a whole other category to serve this now. Um, but if you do that and you don't get caught by it, you don't get someone seeing your ad and saying, "Oh, you're selling something you don't hold title to. Let's see your contract." Could do it. The only other way that I feel safe, the only way I totally feel safe is um buy it, then advertise it, then resell it.
Yeah,
Basically, prehab. Now,
yeah,
I'm not saying I won't do other stuff, but the reality is the law it leaves it open there.
yeah. I mean, there's definitely ways. The first thing that comes to my mind would be a Morby method, and I've mentioned this a lot recently because this would be where we're actually purchasing the property for an agreed upon price, and they're taking a second position as the seller. So that would be my thought. It varies on what you can run on the exit based off how you're able to log it up. I see some of the chat right here says, I'm sure Pace has this figured out. Pace will usually try to figure out how to challenge it. That's what they do. I know Jerry Norton um in South Carolina, when South Carolina made similar moves, like immediately went and did it just like to prove a point, basically. So like there's always going to be people that are going to try to push it. And I think also another important thing that I see when you say that is that if you're really good at what you're doing, you don't have to market properties outwardly like that. Like if you have it done properly, I'm gonna already have a buyer lined up from the beginning, so it's gonna be kind of quiet, right? So like that's the other thing that I see is that like if you don't make a bunch of noise, you don't call a bunch of attention to yourself, you probably are good for a while, right? If you're like the biggest wholesaler in the state, they're probably going to be watching you, right? But the smaller folks, the newbie folks, I think that there is ways that it will be tested. Let the bigger folks test it. Let the folks that have the money to risk and roll the dice on. Let Pace and those guys do that.
And that and well, two things is one, I agree with that, and certainly, if you have it pre-sold, whatever, if you do go quiet. But I guess again, I'm easy because I'm a broker. I run two brokerage firms. I'm looking for wholesalers to get their license, hang their license with me, and then don't have to worry. To me, it's a cost versus value.
Yeah.
What's the cost of getting licensed and doing it right versus, or maybe a risk versus reward?
Is it a
What's the
different
risk?
license? Like, or is it like wholesalers have to get a real estate agent license?
You have to become an agent, like you have to become a licensed agent and hang your license with a broker. So you go there are Groupons and whatever you can take the license test for like or the license course for like $100. But
Oh,
your local licensed crew guy that has an actual class in an actual building is going to charge you like $500. So you pay $500 to get your license. You pay a couple $100 or to take the class. You pay a couple $100 to get your license, and then you hang your license for free with a broker like me, and you're good to go. Because to me, it's cost versus or risk versus reward. But also, I mean, yes, there's going. I know when Wisping first came out, I was on a Facebook group with 5 or 6 of the biggest wholesalers, and we were calling attorneys, and we each talked to 3 attorneys, I'm by far not the biggest wholesaler in Pennsylvania, but whatever. Um, I but basically, we went and every attorney said, don't even bother trying this. I mean, are there ways around it? Can you do, I mean, if you put title, if you step it up and get the seller to take a second, or take any kind of a, if you get it in your own name, problem goes away.
Right.
That's the trick. The trick is, but the flip side of that is we all know the sellers that will take, the sellers that will do any kind of seller finance, 60-day, 90-day, whatever, there's a lot of them that won't.
Right.
It's, I mean, and unfortunately, wholesalers in general and the sellers market have spoiled sellers to the point now that they're so used to the last 3 or 4 years seeing deals go snap, 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 snap at any price. When they now get a lot pickier. Even when I'm talking to people about listing agreements. Oh, well, this thing should sell in 7 days. I said, yep, a year ago it would have sold in 7 days. Now, not so much. Certainly not in a flyover market like Scranton, PA. So I mean, yes, I mean, are there ways around it? Are there companies that do that?
Yeah, that was another question that just came to my mind as well. Is like, what about a marketing agreement, right? We signed an agreement with the seller to market the property for them, and
That's illegal in the state of Pennsylvania.
that's
That right now, today,
already illegal.
there's only two choices in legally moving a property in Pennsylvania. You're either under an equitable interest, meaning a purchase and sale agreement, or you're a licensee. That's it. Anything else is outside of the real estate licensing, or is outside of the Pennsylvania railroad. But anything else you can't do. I have wholesalers all the time saying, I have buyers for. Now, as far as I'm not a lawyer, but as far as I understand the law, as an unlicensee, you're not allowed to represent a buyer. You're not allowed to get paid on a deal that you find. Now, can they pay you a consulting fee? Can they this? Sure, they can do it. But the point is, somebody else said, "Oh, I'm renting property for this guy." Oh, really? Yeah, well, what are you doing? Well, I'm showing it, and I'm talking to people about rents and this and that and the other thing. I said, "Oh, really? You realize that's also illegal under the state of Pennsylvania?" And I almost got in big trouble for that before I knew it was illegal. Back before I was licensed, I was going to sue the city of Wilkes-Barre for something nasty they did to one of my management clients for a company that I was not licensed to run. Did not know you needed a license. We called an attorney who's the specialist in the area. He said, "So what brokerage are you with?" I said, "I'm not." He's like, "We're done with this call now. You're going to send cease and desist letters to all your clients within 12 hours, and you're going to hope the city doesn't find you."
Ugh.
So the state, most states say that you're not allowed to represent people. You're not allowed to get paid on marketing agreements, whatever, whatever. Do people do it? Yes. Can they get away with it? Yes. But again, risk versus reward.
Yeah.
Why not just spend a couple $100, get licensed, a couple $100, take the test, hang your license with somebody that wants to do it and be done. You take 90%, as long as if you know what you're doing, you take 90, I take 10, whether it's me or another broker that does it,
Right.
because the state makes it so serious.
Interesting. That's very interesting to know that. I didn't realize Pennsylvania was that much more strict than even what some other states are already pushing into. So good to know. Good
And
to know.
you're in the I guess I would say, I mean, Florida, a lot of people wholesale in Florida, but
Yeah.
Florida is pretty serious about it too. Florida
Yeah.
is pretty anti-wholesale. So
Yeah.
people do it down there, but
Yeah.
yeah. And the sad reality is this law exists and is growing across the country. This is the reason I founded the ethics organization, IIA, that we want to team up with folks like you on. But also, this law exists because people did nasty things.
Right.
I mean, laws come out of complaints. That's how these lawmakers very often do stuff. Because they're not charging a fee. They're not I mean, I guess they're charging a license fee, kind of, but they're not collecting a fee. They're not requiring you to be a realtor either. This is not about the board of realtors. This is about you have to have your license. Board of realtors is a club. So they're not like, do I think it's a bad law? Yes, but I don't think it's a money grab by the states.
Interesting.
My friends on Capitol Hill or whatever State House of Pennsylvania told me that wholesale violations were the number one related real estate complaint for the last 5 years. My friends at PAR and at the state boards told me wholesale issues were the number one calls they were getting. And
Yeah.
you're right. Devin said it, the unethical idiots. It is. And it's also the ones who just took a YouTube university and said, "Woohoo, this sounds fun."
Right. And this is why we have jumped into the role that we have, right? Because people don't I love action takers. I am an incredible action taker. I'll take action before I fully get something for sure. But what I have learned through failure over the years is making sure that I take action in the right ways and generally, like I said earlier, with the right people. Right. So like you go through YouTube University, you watch whatever, you're like, oh, I can do this. I'm good at talking, I'm good at sales. I call a seller, I get them to agree to something, I lock it up. You don't know what you're doing, right? And so the best thing that you can possibly do is learn the right way first. And that's why we are trying to provide this kind of opportunity to people. So it's interesting to see that coming because, like I told you earlier, I already view what we're building here as a brokerage for wholesalers or investors, really. And and I want to use the word investors instead of wholesalers. First off, wholesalers is like obviously a derogatory term. You don't want to call somebody a wholesaler, you're gonna mess around and get in trouble, right? So it's like we want to be investors. And I've as I've advanced through this journey, I've quickly begun to realize the true value of other people's money and being able to just buy these properties with other people's money, right? And it comes down to understanding and having the relationships, right? Like how to present the proper opportunities and form the right partnerships in a way that you can acquire properties without having to leverage your own resources. But there's so many ways that we can do that to overcome some of this, right? So maybe that means finding a private money partner who wants to put the actual cash down to acquire this property. Now we own it, then we sell it, and then we make the $80,000 spread, right? Like that's just what it comes down to for me. It's like it's just going to be more ways in which we pull in other people's money, private capital, in order to get these properties purchased. And this is again why I think the Morby method is incredibly valuable because then we're just using a DSCR loan. The seller's taking a second position. We do acquire the property. And now whatever, now normally you wouldn't do that on a deal that you were going to wholesale, right? It would normally be used for something we're going to hold, or we're looking at several right now that will be potential pad splits, right? That we're going to work with a Morby method ideally. But I definitely think that it's going to be the solution is going to lie in, like you said, actually acquiring them, and that's going to come from other people's money. And wholesalers are going to need that support, that brokerage support of other people's money. And so even this morning, I took another call with a sub-2 member and a guy that we're growing with, and he's got a background in fund development and like growing large scale capital raises. So I'm like, all right, this is what we need to be able to do. Like we need to be able to grow a fund or pull capital in other places so that we can acquire these deals and make better movements.
And that's exactly why maybe you and I team up on this because I'm also starting to launch a fund. Right now I've got maybe I don't know, a half million or a million we can loan out, something like that. But I want to 10x that. I want to get into EMD lending. I want to get into transactional lending. I want to get into snapping up the deals. And also I this the starting the brokerage for wholesalers, I went by getting the license and doing that way, but it's the same difference doing it nationally to give someone the control and the power, but also make sure I personally only wholesale in markets that I have boots on the ground that I trust.
Yeah.
I don't, I know guys, oh, I got something in Kalamazoo. Well, let me go look on a map and see where Kalamazoo is. No. If I don't have somebody out there that can, usually a broker or an agent, but at least somebody that lives there that can tell me, oh, well, that's the wrong side of the tracks. Because I've got 4 units in Farrell right now that make in Farrell, Pennsylvania, that make phenomenal money. The DSCR is off the charts. I can't move, finding a buyer at 110 for these 4 properties has been a royal bitch.
Mhm.
And what I figured out after and I knew that I had somebody out there, but they apparently weren't as good at knowing neighborhoods. Reality is they're the bad part of Farrell.
Hmm.
So like even though the cash flow is great, and even though the comps on PropStream look phenomenal, the actual if you're a Farrell native, you don't want to be there.
Right.
So I went back to the owner and said, listen, I said, you know what? I said, our guys have done it. We've done the boots on the ground. We have 6 weeks left to our contract. I said, but we got to talk about numbers. I said, how bad do you want to get rid of these things? Because they're great. They're great. I mean, on paper they work phenomenally. On comps they work phenomenally, but just the neighbors don't like them.
Hmm.
That's just where they are. So like I think that and that's why that's why I do the whole thing where I want to give my partners most of the money because your guys are the ones on the street. Um, that's kind of where you're at.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, dude, I definitely see a lot of that. I actually have really enjoyed this kind of back and forth because it gives me more clarity on what we're already working towards and how we can then pull in other partnerships, right? So if we pull in agents in each local market that we're able to develop these kind of relationships with, it makes sense because I know that there's going to be more and more states that push this direction as this starts to happen, and the game is going to continue to change. One other thought I had that this may be a little bit more complex. Some of you that have been following me on Facebook, you see me post about blockchain and fractionalization of real estate. So another like the most new school way to look at potentially doing some things like this would be for sellers to fractionalize their equity out on a blockchain. So this is something I can tell off the jump. Pennsylvania's definitely not going to be in support of. There's a lot of states that are more open-minded to it. There's many other countries that are building their whole infrastructure on this. So I do believe that it's an inevitable amount of time. I don't know how long this amount of time is, but it's an inevitable amount that eventually blockchain technology gets to a point where it is readily accepted. And I believe, if nothing else, just having the contracts on chain and verifiable is a good move. The ability to fractionalize property and equity out, like basically refinance out using this instead of a bank refinance, I see a lot of potential. So obviously it's a little bit different, but I feel like there's also some crossovers there. So have you ever heard of this even first off? I know it's very new. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
I've been looking into the blockchain, into the fractionalization, and I think that there's a lot of opportunity there. And I think that the states may not be in favor of it, but the way that I've been developing on that really gets around state control.
Yeah.
We also have a bubble on the a bubble system, I call it, on the that kind of works around the due on sale clause with the when you're taking over a sub two. And basically there's a lot of interesting ways around that. And also what we all have to get good at is explaining to the sellers, because when most of our sellers in this backwater market that I'm originally from Boston. I used to be in television, but ended up in this eastern part of Pennsylvania. This backwater market, explaining to this 70-year-old woman who basically grew up in the cash era, well, I want you to hold a note on this. Well, I want you to do this fancy thing, that fancy thing. That can be hard. But this bubble method that we kind of came up with that says, we're getting you up to that way we keep the state out of it. There's no real state questions on it. But I'd be curious to know kind of where you're coming from on the blockchain. But I know we're running out of time. Somebody said they'd leave at one.
Yeah.
But basically, I think I mean, I think there has to be creative ways to do it. I think, I mean, to me, like this isn't necessarily my money thing, but I think this is my heart thing. Is the Independent Investment Association being the ethics organization, if we all, as your brokerage, my brokerage, whatever, if we all said, you know what, we're going to all back this one standard group,
Mhm.
and that standard group is separate from us. And as long as everything is stamped by that standard, because the reality is, as a licensed agent, I do not need to be a realtor. But if I walk up to the average family and say, hi, I'm not a realtor, but I want to sell your house, they're going to suspect me. NAR has done a phenomenal job of making themselves the Teflon duck. Nothing will stick to them.
The
If
Teflon duck.
if we all if we all say, you know what, this is our standard. If we're all a member of this, we're achieving this standard. That will make everything easier to explain. Because right now, and also I also have if you want to use this, I want people using this all the time. I have an MLS for off-market deals, which is actually now becoming the MLS for MLS because you can't talk commission splits on the MLS anymore.
Uh,
So the realtors are going to start using it too, probably. But basically, if we start saying, listen, these are our standards, this is what we do. We're all members of this. We're all following these rules.
yeah.
And if you're not following these rules, then the seller should suspect you. Because right now, if you and I call a seller up and we're doing it right and we're legit and whatever, and Joe Schmo calls up and offers them $5,000 more, they have no independent way of knowing
Yeah.
that we're better than Joe Schmo. They
Right.
can Google you and see 5 stars. They can Google me and see 5 stars. All right, great, fine, whatever. What does that actually tell them? If we really put something together and say, you know what, we're members of this dot. This dot means something.
Mhm.
And this dot is not part of us. We're not making money off this dot. This dot is just a membership organization. We've taken a test, we've joined a membership, whatever. We have these standards, we have hopefully standard contracts maybe. yada yada. This is the way we do business. Then we can eliminate the yahoos simply by, I guess, freezing them out. Because I'll say right now, I say to sellers all the time, well, these other wholesalers calling you, are they members of the Independent Investors Association? Oh, I guess they should be, shouldn't they? Well, they should, but they haven't heard of it because I just invented it. But they sounds important. And that's the thing. And having the credibility of you, having the credibility of me saying, we're in support of this thing.
Mhm.
This is the way it should be done. And if you're not doing it this way, Mr. Seller, be afraid.
Yeah.
If they're not using paper contracts, if they're not putting their own money, even if it's $100, their own money in escrow, if they're not taking their buyer's money and putting it in escrow with a third party actual escrow company. The guy I helped go to jail, he was putting buyer's money in his damn pocket.
Oh
That was,
no,
yeah.
goodness.
Um, so yeah, I think that's what we as wholesalers, and I don't use the word wholesalers, as investors,
Right.
and also because I'm not in this to wholesale. I'm in this to find a deal. I'm
Exactly.
in this to sell off the 90% and buy the 5%. And I don't know
Yeah.
what the other 5,
And yeah, that's how I view it too. Like I never viewed myself as a wholesaler. I've been a marketer my whole career. So when I came into real estate, they are interchangeable really, but like I didn't want to be a wholesaler ever. So I never carried that tag. I mean, at the end of the day, we talk about this a lot from the underwriting perspective and putting together deals. Oh no, Marianne, I hope you're safe down there. I know she's in Naples down there. It's going to be crazy down in Florida, so be safe with your emergency alert going off. That's no good. But yeah, I mean, when you look at structuring deals properly as an investor first, it makes it easier to take care of everybody. When you're looking at it as a wholesaler, we talked about this a bit on the message or the meeting last night. Like, if you're only focused as a wholesaler on how much money you're going to make or what your fee is, you lose sight of what it's actually supposed to be about. And then when you do that, that's where you end up doing wrong by people, even if not intentionally. I do agree that most people don't have bad intentions. There are slime balls out there. Most people don't have bad intentions, but that does not mean that most people still do it the right way. Just because they didn't intend to do it wrong. It doesn't really change the way that's delivered to a seller or the way it's interpreted when wrong is done. And even if it's done through not knowing what you don't know. So I think there's definitely a huge push coming in the industry for some kind of I guess certification style thing like you're talking about, comparable, right? I think in the long run, it's going to be better served for us if we as investors lead that push instead of letting the government tell us what that's going to look like. Because I mean, if we keep letting it go, it's going to keep being more and more like Pennsylvania and other places. But
Yep.
if we address it as an industry and do more of a self-regulation, it becomes easier for the government to keep their hands out of it.
Well, and I'll be honest, my friends at the State House, not just in Pennsylvania and other places, that said we didn't want to play this game. We're here because we had to be. We were getting complaints. We were having people lose their homes. There's a famous story out of Florida. A guy signed with a wholesaler his $180,000 home. He sold for $1,800,
Mm.
and the judge upheld the contract when his whatever because it was a legal contract. Well, that simply shouldn't be okay. We as an association should say that needs to be done differently. And disclosures are another part. Every state in the country every state has an EPA-led disclosure. You're selling something built before 78, you damn well better have everyone sign an EPA-led and give them the EPA pamphlet. If you
Mhm.
don't, the EPA has like $30,000, $40,000 in fines waiting for you. Every state has seller disclosures. And people say, "Oh, well, those are only for realtors." Yeah, that's funny. In Pennsylvania, the state disclosure law says every residential transaction in Pennsylvania must. That's it. Must have a disclosure, whatever. So having the association that backs that up also then allows those states that haven't done a regulation, and they will because they have to say, well, wait a second, why don't we just certify, as Pennsylvania does for building inspectors? If you're a member of a national nonprofit, building inspection, whatever, that's your license. That's it. Because the national nonprofit has their own training regulations. Lawyers have no state license in Pennsylvania. They
Mm.
have the Bar Association. You don't need a state license because you have the Bar Association. Um,
So there's a solution. We got to have that kind of association. We got to have that level of
and
really.
and also standardization. I mean, one of the beautiful. I'm doing a wholesale right now within a state, and their estate attorney didn't even look at my contract. He's like, give it to me on a par standard document. He's like, give me a document I've seen a million times before. And that would also be the benefit of an association of a partnership between us of whatever of getting of being able to this is our document. You might make minor, I mean, state by state changes, whatever. People make minor independent changes, but it will be clear where those changes are. PAR has 10 lines at the bottom. Fill in whatever you want. That's where you have space for change. A couple blanks up top, but whatever. But the point is something that a lawyer or whatever can look at clearly and know, boom, and know that and also know that all the boilerplate's in there. I've seen one-page wholesale agreements.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, you can't cover subsurface and yada 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 in 14 lines. You
One
just can't
page.
do it. Yeah, one page, and most of it's 6 lines of blanks here, 6 lines of blanks there.
Right.
Where do you cover all the actual detail? And
Yeah, that's
ours
crazy.
is
Wow.
what?
That's wild that somebody had a one pager. I got you
Yeah,
this one pager. Don't worry about it. Everything's good. Just sign it.
yeah, and people, and the reality is the sellers. I'm big about consumer protection. The sellers we're dealing with, they're screwed. I mean, let's face it, that's 90% of who we're talking to is people who have a motivation to sell under market.
Yeah.
And so they're already scared. And you're coming and making all these grand promises. And if the wholesaler, that's the reason I started the MLS site, the listing site, which I'll send you links for. And I've got an affiliate for my education stuff as well. We can talk about all that too. But is I'm done with, hi, I have a 3-2 in Alberta or whatever. Who want for 225? Who wants it? That's bull. Give me full information. Give me comps. Give me pictures. Give me, income expense reports if it's applicable. Give me a repair estimate. Give me at least what it is before I even, those hi, I have a 3-2 for 125. I ignore those
Yeah.
because you haven't given me anything to tell me whether or not it's worth looking at.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
Um,
there's definitely a lot more. We have to talk one-on-one for sure because I think there's some
yeah,
a lot
definitely.
pull together and how we can offer value to people. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It gives me foresight into the industry, that I may not be able to see without your perspective added. So I appreciate that. I'm sure lots of people here were able to learn from you and be able to find some value. If you haven't already, you should drop a post in our Facebook group, Stephen, and just intro yourself, let people reach out to you. I know we made a post and tagged you in it, but just another point for people
Yeah,
to reach out if they have any questions, especially if you're in Pennsylvania and you're wanting to continue to wholesale or sell houses in general, then let's work together, get your license and hang it somewhere.
yeah, and if people don't want to get licensed, frankly, they're stupid because I go from being able to pay you 90% to being able to pay you about 20. Because technically, I'm not supposed to pay an unlicensed person anything, but
Right.
I have I have a marketing company I already pay a large percentage to, one of my other companies, so that I can push money off that way. But I mean, if you really don't want to, and somebody's asked what site we're talking about.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know what that question was about either.
yeah, I so
So, well, guys, as we approach the tail end of the hour, Steve, if you also, I think you dropped your contact info up here earlier. Yeah. So if you guys want to connect with him, definitely get his contact info from the chat there. And let's have a great day today, guys. Let's go get some deals done. I know for our Florida folks, you might be hunkered down. I had to run and hide myself, but stay safe, try to stay dry. I know it's kind of scary times for people out there, but hopefully everybody is able to stay in one piece as much as possible, guys. So, Marianne, I did see you mention that you had some potential leads or whatever. Of course, you can shoot me a message and we'll work on underwriting and seeing a little bit together. I am going to start to do a few more evening sessions as well throughout the week, guys. So I may or may not jump on this evening and tomorrow. So I appreciate y'all that come to this afternoon one, but we'll also be doing some evening things, trying to reach as many people as possible. So as always, if you found any value and learned anything or really got anything good from this, please share the information, the link to the live stream on Facebook, share the group, invite others. It really helps us when you do that, and it helps us help more people. And that's really what it's all about. So Stephen, I appreciate you coming by and sharing a bunch of value with us. I'll have Aaliyah set up a time for us to talk one-on-one and we'll get some deals moving together.
yep, and I'm just gonna throw my Facebook in there real quick. If anybody needs to reach me there, you can hit me on
Sure.
that one. And reach out, everybody. Thanks.
There you go. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate y'all. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, folks. And let's get some deals done. Talk to y'all soon.
Did you record this at all? No.
I did, absolutely.
Yeah, shoot it over, please. All right, thanks.
Aaliyah will help that. She'll get that over.